What's going on, everyone? Coach Aaron here, back in another video. Today we're going to go over what the latest is in the world of powerlifting for this year and next year. So let's get right to it. Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in to another video. Today we're just going to do a quick little video just going over powerlifting news, what's going on in the world of powerlifting. And we'll break it down from the world level down to the regional level and then down to our national and local level within USAPL. All right, so we'll get started with the IPF level with the World Championships. And basically, a lot of this information you may have already known for this year and for going forward for next year, but some of the stuff you may not know. So starting off with the IPF level, all the World Championships have been canceled at this point. They were trying to wait and hold off and see whether they could make something happen in November like Open Worlds, but it just turned out that the issue with the coronavirus is not getting better, travel is not getting any easier, some places are having a resurgence, and not only is it difficult to get lifters to train and spend money and commit to these World Championships, but it's also difficult to get the volunteers since you do need the referees to come and you need the referees in the chair to be from 3 different countries and in the jury to be from 3 different countries in order to set a world record. So just a logistical nightmare, and it's difficult to get the actual lifters there, so they decide to cancel them all. Going forward into next year for the World Championships, if you look at the IPF calendar, they have shifted the regular dates or the regular months that these World Championships happen later into the year to kind of better prepare for this coronavirus continuing to last into next year. That way, if there is still an issue in March, April, May, then they have a little bit of safety that they can work with because the World Championships are going to be later in the year. So taking a look at the World Championships, you can then see, for example, the University Worlds is in July 5th through 10th, but then they've shifted some of the other meets. For example, the Raw Worlds that are usually, or Classic Worlds, whatever you want to call it, usually in June, they shifted that till September 23rd to October 3rd. So they shifted that a few months further back into the calendar for next year to give them more time to prepare, not only for the meet director and the city to prepare for it, but also for them to be prepared in case this coronavirus lasts longer than just this year. The sub-junior and junior world is usually end of August, and they kept that the same, August 22nd through 28th. And then they also moved the Masters Worlds, which I believe they were going to move anyways. So that one is in October 8th through 17th. And then Open World is always in November at the end of the year anyways, so that one's set for November 8th through 14th. So now the first championship is going to be starting in July. So that's going to be in the second half of the year for all these World Championships, again, to give them more time to prepare and deal with the virus if it does extend, which I think a lot of people is going to extend into early next year, and then we'll see how far beyond that. Maybe these meets will get postponed or canceled if this virus continues to be an issue for more than just 1 year. Going into the regional championships, okay, so we do have different regions within IPF. I have a video that kind of goes over the IPF structure. I'll put the card for it above, link for in the description. But for the North American region, our region, that meet was canceled because again, the virus is a big issue here in the North American region, Central America, and even South America. And the location that was going to be Cayman Islands doesn't even let any international flights in right now, I think until October 31st. And the hotel where it was going to be at is going to be closed, I believe, as well to October 31st because they have no tourists coming. So it was going to be very difficult in order to run this meet safely and to actually be able to get in the country, because who knows, on October 31st or leading up to it, they may have extended it to December 31st. So for this year, the regional championship for North America and both the powerlifting and the bench press were canceled. For some of the other regions, they were also canceled, like all the European championships were canceled. So looking again at the IPF calendar, the only thing for the regional level that's left for this year is, looks like there's a South American meet in December, an Asian meet in December, and then the Arnold Classic in Spain in December. So we'll see if those last. Going into next year, we are going to continue for North American region with where the meets were supposed to be held anyways next year. So the NAPF Powerlifting Championship will be here in Miami, Florida, where I live, and then the bench press is planned for Costa Rica. So we'll have to kind of circle back around to Cayman Islands in a future year. So unfortunately, we don't get to go to Cayman Islands. Whoever was hoping to go there, I was really excited to go there. I've never been there before, and I live in Miami. So while Miami's easy for me to go to the championship, it's nothing different for me. It's not like a vacation spot. We'll just have to stick with Miami and then Costa Rica for the bench press for next year, and then go from there. But for the North American Powerlifting Championship Miami, they did also shift the date a little bit back. So we bumped it back a couple weeks. I think it was only 2 or 3 week difference. So now it will be August 23 through 28. So that just makes it a little bit better of a schedule with some of the other stuff going on in the calendar. And the expectation from the IPF is kind of like they set the World Championships to whoever fits best for those locations and those meet directors, and then they expect the regional meets to then shift their schedule to kind of fit in line with that, since obviously the World Championship takes priority over the Regional Championship. So just a small adjustment there to our North American Championship. The bench press for North Americans is currently scheduled for October 28th through 30th, which is around when it normally is, and I don't think that has changed. Then you can always check the IPF website, powerlifting.sport, to stay on top of these regional championships and these world championships. If you happen to be in a different region, you can go look at the planned European meets or Asian meets or whatever for next year. All right, so now let's go down to our national level. We'll switch over to the USAPL calendar. Similar thing for this year. If you don't already know, all the national championships except for Collegiate Nationals were already canceled a little while ago. They were waiting to see how the US and Pennsylvania go for the month of August to then decide on Collegiate Nationals. And we haven't heard any news now that we are into September already. So it seems like the USAPL EC is willing to continue on with Collegiate Nationals being run in Pennsylvania, and that is scheduled for third week of November, November 20th, that weekend. So that is the only national championship for USAPL that will be running this year. And then for next year, a lot of stuff is still up in the air. So we do have the military nationals already planned for March 20th. And we do have Collegiate Nationals already planned for April 7th, because those are individual meet directors. But for the championships that USAPL is running now, which is the Raw Nationals, Open Nationals, Youth Nationals, and Bench Nationals, those are not scheduled yet. And part of the reason I'm guessing is they're just taking a wait and see approach, because no one knows what's going to happen. We might get this vaccine by January, but we have to see whether we do actually get it this year and how effective it is. If it ends up coming out this year and being effective, then they can maybe go and plan their championships for next year and maybe do something in the beginning half of next year. For example, the Open Nationals is usually in May, High School Nationals is usually March. We already have the Military Nationals in March, we have the Collegiate Nationals in April. Then they can keep the Raw Nationals in the later half of the year. The other thing they do have to deal with is, like I said, the IPF schedule has changed a little bit. They're putting a lot of meets into the second half of next year. Some of our regional championships will also be in that second half of next year. So then they have to make a decision. Do they move the nationals further up in the calendar? One, so it doesn't conflict with those world championships, and two, so they can actually produce a national team for those world championships based on a competition that happens next year. So basically we have to wait and see, because they're just waiting to see what happens with the virus within the US and wherever state they want to hold it in, what kind of restrictions they have, and then decide what they want to do as far as fitting in with the IPF calendar for the World Championships and the Regional Championships. For our USA Regional Championships, as you probably already know, those for this year were canceled as well, because just of the issues with the virus and traveling restrictions, all that kind of stuff. And again, similar to the National Championships, we don't know what the plan is for next year. Typically, when a regional championship is picked, it wouldn't have been picked by now anyways on a regular year. Sometimes around this time is where they put out the form for whoever meet director wants to submit a bid to host a regional championship in the region, and then they take the bids in for a certain number of weeks or months, and then they go and vote for it and pick it maybe by December or something like that. So it wouldn't have been picked anyways at this point in a regular year. So I wouldn't think that it would be happening anytime soon. I haven't seen them post anything. So maybe in December or January, we'd be able to find out where the regional championships are going to happen. And then maybe again, January or maybe even February for something like Raw Nationals, might be when we find out when the national championships happen, because they want to wait as long as they possibly can to see what the situation is and how it's developed, to make the best decision possible on that current information. Not not trying to plan now for how things are going to be next year when we have no idea how things are going to be in 4 months time even. And then finally going down to the local level competitions, there are local competitions back on the calendar. So depending on what state you're in, they may be hosting championships, they may not. Just depends on the situation in your state and the meet directors, whether they want to run meets within the guidelines or not. So you can just check out the USAPL calendar and see what's in your state, or maybe a nearby state if you do want to travel. You have to just, again, look at the travel restrictions, and also in general look at the USAPL restrictions on what it takes in order to compete at a meet. For example, you do have to wear the mask at all times. So if you don't want to wear a mask, then you can't compete for now. We don't know when these USAPL guidelines are going to be taken away. So at least for the foreseeable future, you should expect these guidelines to be in place, I would say at least till the end of the year, until we find out more information about what's going on with a vaccine, if it's going to be safe and effective, and then how the cases continue to trend in the US, see if we have a resurgence in the winter time or not. But if you did see, we do have the hometown showdown. I did make a video for that here on the channel, so I'll put the card for that above and in the description below if you want to go learn more information about the hometown showdown. So if you do want to do a local meet and there is something close to you, you can go and you're automatically entered into that hometown showdown. You go into the rankings, you may win some prizes, you may win free entry for nationals next year once that is all set. In addition, all the local meets now, as long as they have the requirements to set American records, like the national referees, you can set American records. So if you are a higher level lifter and you said, oh, I missed out on my chance on going to Worlds or NAPF or Nationals and be able to break different records, all that kind of stuff, then you can at least go to a meet and break an American record this year, especially if you are maybe aging out and you have to get it done this year before you age into, for let's say from Team 3 into Junior or something like that. So hopefully I have to give you a little breakdown from the top down of what's going on. All the World Championships for this year have been canceled, and then next year it's all being pushed into the second half of the year just in case. The Regional Championships here in North America canceled, and then again for next year they're going to be in the second half, with that powerlifting being in late August and the bench press being in late October. Going down into the USAPL level, all the nationals are canceled except for Collegiate Nationals, which is currently still on track for happening in November in Pennsylvania, but continue to monitor that on the USAPL website. Regionals, all of them were canceled this year. We don't know yet for next year. Same thing for nationals. We don't know where the nationals are going to be next year, except for military and collegiate nationals for next year are already set for Orlando and Louisiana. And then for local level, you have to just see what's going on in your areas, depending on the cases and the restrictions within your state. But if there is something in your location, then you can always do a local meet. You can enter that hometown showdown. You can break American records. You just have to make sure you follow all those guidelines. So be sure you read the USAPL guidelines. Like I said, the most important thing being you have to wear a mask at all times. But hopefully that helped you out. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you have any questions about any other powerlifting news that I may have forgotten to mention, you can comment those below. I will look into it and see what information I have that I can provide to you. If there's someone else out there asking about what's going on for next year, you can send this video, but it's pretty much, we don't know exactly for sure. They're trying to move as many of the meets later half of next year as possible just to be safe until we figure out what's going on with the virus, with a vaccine, and the situation as far as international travel, and even in the US with traveling within state. So you have to just be patient because the whole world doesn't know what's going to happen in the next 3, 6, or 9 months. So it's hard for us here at USAPL or for those involved in IPF to know what's going on and be able to plan for it. We don't want to plan for things early in the year and then just have to cancel them again. So it's better to just wait a little bit, seeing how the situation trends, hopefully downward in a good direction, and then start making the plan for next year for nationals and for regionals and how to build our national teams for the World Championships and Regional Championships next year. But hope you're having a good day and hope you're gonna have a good week, staying safe out there, and I'll see you next time.